This is Josh Jelinski, the financial quarterback. Don't touch that dial. Previously, we had a problem.
Man, I got to take off. Apparently my cat just went into a flower that's very toxic.
What?
And yeah, I gotta go.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well,
Can you guys do the game?
Yeah, I'm sorry for your.
All right. Yeah.
Is he gone now? You got to rush right away. Get out now. Run. That is so strange. Dear Lord, please save Josh's cat. Looked like he was appearing at your next cat funeral.
So you'll hear it in the last episode, but mid-recording, I had to drop out because my fiance came to me and said there's an emergency, and my cat's face was orange. And what we had found out was her parents had sent her flowers, lilies to be specific, and those are very, very toxic to cats. If they ingest any form of the lily and it's not treated, within 3 to 5 days, their kidneys can shut down and immediate death. So we cleaned off his face and rushed him to the ER.
What was the piece?
It was the pollen.
The pollen off of the end of the stamen?
No, he dug his face in the flowers, got a nice breath of lilies, and came out with an orange face. He looked like he got a tan.
Was it a tiger lily?
It was a proper lily.
So the pollen rests upon the stamen. So Biggie's just licking the pollen.
He's like rubbing his nose in it. I don't know if he licked it. So he licked his face and he had the pollen on his face. So there was a little bit of ingestion. This was more precautionary, but we have a family vet that we called.
Thank the Lord.
Yeah. So after that episode, after I dropped off, ran him to the ER, and we had to submit him for 48 hours. And it cost us about $4,500 all in. And it's funny because that episode we were talking about the American dream and owning pets, and you would ask me how much Biggie costs a year. And I had said around $1,000 a year, and that upped it 4 times. So what can we learn from that? Should I be getting pet insurance? Should we keep adding to the cost of the American dream?
Well, here's the thing. Are you going to let your pet die over a health emergency? See, this is the thing that most financial planning shows and most financial influencers who shall remain nameless will say, oh, you got to sacrifice. You got to eat pork and beans and rice. And I'm all for that. Be relentlessly cost conscious. Get out of debt. Lower your costs. But there's a quality of life aspect, right? You're not going to say, no, Biggie, we're not going to take you to the vet. So you have to account for that. That's the purpose of insurance. The idea about insurance is you're paying a premium every month so that company is on the hook for the big thing. I guess the other thing, though, does pet insurance really work? I'm not an expert on that.
We were in the ER, and there's other people and their animals, and, people are devastated, and it's a really vulnerable place. But just hitting you with that cost, it's like, what if you can't afford it? That'll put you in debt. And what are you going to do? You're already there. You can't just say no. When you're vulnerable, they can get you, and it starts to make you feel less trustworthy.
Do you have pet insurance or no?
No.
What is the cost of pet insurance?
$32 a month.
$32 a month?
Average, yeah.
That's pretty cheap. But does it cover all these things? And that's the point. If you don't have the money for the $4,500, the $3,500 charge, you spend the $30 a month, you pay your $360 a year, and it covers you for the big things. To me, that makes sense. That's why you have insurance. My whole thing is that's sort of the purpose of an emergency fund, that if you have a sufficient emergency fund, you don't need to buy some of these, insurances. But if you're living paycheck to paycheck and you don't have $4,500 for the vet bill, pet insurance does make a lot of sense.
I agree. So moral of the story, Biggie's okay. I'm out $4,300, and I'm going to invest in pet insurance because I need that safety net.
What was so crazy about the show was, I think I'd even said something like, what if your pet dies? Or I was sort of hamming it up. Thank God that Biggie is okay.
Yep. Lives another day. He has eight lives left.
money, power, knowledge are all modern false idols. We see a lot of false idol worship in finance, in books, Bitcoin, and the boom of TikTok and online gurus. There are a lot of false financial idols who give out some crackpot advice, but are worshipped by investors. Now, here's the thing. I'm not saying be naive to the destruction of the dollar due to inflation, money printing, people, companies looking to get outside of the U.S. currency. What I'm talking about is just the continual fear-mongering, sometimes on the right or the left. Okay, if this person gets in, get your money out. And then if this happens, put 100% of your money in Bitcoin. So the false idols could be a charlatan trying to get you to buy a newsletter subscription, or the charlatan may be somebody who's just selling an idea of certainty in an economically uncertain time. So when I say idolatry in finance, it's not just the fearmonger using scare tactics to get you to buy their book. It's also maybe you putting someone who gives good advice on a pedestal when you should be a critical thinker as well.
Also, how easy is it to go on TikTok and to see someone who is driving a Lamborghini, or, someone who maybe rented a house for a day and they come off like they can give you the path or the keys to wealth?
Yeah, a lot of these people were shown to have they're renting like a G-Wagon, or they're renting a Lambo for the purpose of appearing successful. I should do a TikTok where we just use a beat up old Honda Civic, because I actually associate that car with more financial success. It's the ability to not keep up with the Joneses that makes one financially successful. These people who fake it till you make it, these Instagram social media people who use their wives and kids. That's another thing. A lot of these people you see, they use their wives and kids now. Like I see this one guy, he's all ripped. His chest is all chiseled and he's showing off his wife. It's like, if you really are that put together. Now, it's different of a picture of you with your kids or a picture of you with your family in a bio section. I mean, we are literally now seeing Instagram celebrities. They're literally pimping out their wives and children. Why does that guy need to sell me his $300 real estate millionaire course? Now, here's the thing. I have no problem with somebody selling a course for profit. I'm just saying, how is that person selling you?
At the end of the day, they're selling you these programs, and the more you buy in, the more money you're going to spend. Have you ever followed any of these financial gurus before in the past?
I want to be clear. I think you can learn something from everyone.
Well, you learn from mistakes.
I bought somebody's course for $5,000, and it was on marketing funnels, and it looked really good, and it proved out it was a complete fraud. But I bought the $97, course. Or the problem I have is more of I'm okay with the $97 or even the $9.97. You notice how they always have 7 at the end?
Yeah.
That's my first red flag right there.
Looks like you're getting a deal.
Yeah. 97 is better than $100. So that would be the trick right there. Don't trust anybody with a 7 at the end of their pricing. But realize that the $97 ticket is about getting a client. Then they upsell you to the $997, the $1,000 ticket. Then they do the $10,000 ticket and the $50,000, the $100,000 ticket. But then, the whole idea is it's a feeder event to the $10,000 business mastery course, which is then a feeder event to the $200,000 platinum. You might get Tony to do business with you. That's the problem that I have with these guys, that they're selling the big ticket, the 50 grand, the 200 grand, the 100 grand, thinking you get to rub elbows with them and do business deals. And that, I think, the FCC or one of those groups should take issue with.
What's the craziest piece of financial advice you've heard on TikTok or YouTube? Does anything come to mind?
Well, somebody says your house, like they don't ever own a home, and they're pushing that. But then I found out that guy owns a home. And I get the point that a home ownership has costs that renting does not. But one of the ways that middle-class people particularly build long-term wealth is through the equity in their homes. And so I think that may be the worst piece of advice I've ever heard. If you were to rent, right, and religiously save that money above the rents and save that in the market, yeah, I get what they're saying. You could make more wealth that way. But who does that? You know, a lot of people don't save. It's like people who say whole life is bad, so buy term, invest the difference. A lot of people that don't invest the difference. You got to invest the difference. I mean, there's a lot of bad ideas I've seen. A lot of these TikTok people, you know, they're telling you to not save in a 401k, not save in an IRA. Oh, your 401k is a scam. Now, are there problems with the 401k? Deferred taxation? Yes. Your money's illiquid till 59.5? Yes. But it's a great way to grow middle-class wealth and even upper-class wealth.
What are some red flags that you see when you come across these financial gurus, and what should we look out for?
You know, they're always using the same like rags to riches story. Oh, I was bankrupt and now I'm, driving a Lambo. Don't believe that any single person has it perfect. Let me be honest. Most highly successful people that I know a guy who's worth $100 million. He'd give everything back to repair his broken, marriage of years ago. There's so many people. Nobody has it all together perfectly, right? Nobody has the lock on truth. Nobody has the lock on the perfect life.
So let me ask you, do you think it's better to have no financial advice or to follow this bad financial advice?
It may be better to follow no advice than to follow bad financial advice. That's why you get a licensed financial advisor. You pay a fee, a reasonable fee between, 1 and 1.75% for the person's time. You buy no load funds, no commission stocks, and you deal with a reputable third-party custodian. They can help you, in this era of I can do it myself on Robinhood for free. Yeah, you can do some stuff for free until they say, like I had a guy today showed up at my office. He showed me a Fidelity scam where it wasn't Fidelity. It was somebody was posing as Fidelity, sending him an email. And so he had the foresight to come to our office, show us the scam. We said, yeah, it's a scam. And then we made some steps to lock down his account a little bit further.
So we talked about, bad financial gurus out there. Are there any that you like or any that you think give good advice, people that are doing good work out there, besides the financial quarterback, of course?
Well, no, that's why I did my own show. I mean, there's nobody I can consistently warrant their advice. On today's episode of The Financial Quarterback, we pulled some tips from these false idols of finance. Fisher is going to read tips, and I'll give my take on whether it's good or bad. And if it's not, I'll guide you down a better financial path, hopefully.
All right. The first one is from Robert Kiyosaki. Use debt to purchase assets and don't save cash. Focus on assets, not liabilities. Rich people acquire assets. The poor and middle class acquire liabilities that they think are assets.
I generally like that tip, but this don't save cash business. Okay, so generally, yes, use debt to purchase assets. Focus on building your assets that throw off income. Rich people do acquire assets. The poor and middle class acquire liabilities, but so do the rich. The rich buy big boats. Some of these people are trying to lure you, but realize if you keep buying assets, right, what costs money? The greater your assets, the greater your cost. So if I own a commercial real estate building, you got to pay 200 grand a year in taxes now because you own that. So you have to balance cash and having a cash moat with your assets, with your liabilities. So as you grow your assets, you grow your cash. There is this thing, and maybe we say this, cash is trash, is something that people say. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Cash is not trash. Cash is ready money. Ready money is Aladdin's lamp, as a mentor of mine once said. It allows you to purchase assets on sale when nobody wants them. So cash is not trash. I'm sure Robert Kiyosaki has a lot of cash.
All right, next one, Warren Buffett. If you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die.
I like that because that quote has sort of changed. I've always been of that mindset, actually. You keep working, make money. But as I'm getting a little older, what are assets that I can buy that will throw off some more income for long-term wealth? I get what he's saying. I'm sure he's working. Well, he is an obvious example of somebody who's working till he's dying. He's 90, he's still running Berkshire Hathaway. What I guess he means is focus on buying good companies. But again, some of these are more lure than actual good advice.
What are ways people can make money while they sleep?
Well, you can buy stock. Stocks are businesses that can throw off income in the form of dividend. So you can literally make money while you are, that's a passive thing, but you have to be actively involved then in picking the right stocks and companies.
Yeah, you could also do a sleep study where they pay you to sleep. All right, next one. Having a job and earning a salary will not make you rich. Running a business will. Robert Kiyosaki.
I know a lot of people have made a good salary. We were just talking about a client making like 350 grand a year working for a big Fortune 500 company. And she's amassed a nice little fortune as a 43-year-old. That right there, you got to know yourself.
Yeah.
I know people would die of a heart attack if they had my job. They gotta pay all these people's salaries. They gotta pay this taxes. They gotta get this due. They gotta do their taxes. They gotta pay $1 million tax bill. They gotta you gotta know thyself. That was the famous Socrates saying. Some people are a great employee, and then your focus should be on saving 10 or 20% of your income. There's nothing wrong with being an employee. It depends on the personality of the individual, depends on their risk profile, depends on their age, right?
They shouldn't force that mentality because it's a lot of work to keep up and maintain a business, and it's a huge risk. And some people, would rather be led than lead, which is okay.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with knowing your role. What did The Rock say? Know your role and shut your mouth.
And don't eat rolls. A couple more from Kiyosaki. Work to learn, not for money, and take financial risks.
I like to work to learn, not for money. I think if you work for money solely, you might get burned out.
All right, next one. Stick to growth stock mutual funds. Dave Ramsey.
What type of mutual funds? What type of growth? Are they international? Are they high fee mutual funds? Are they low fee? Are they no load? I think the broader problem with this statement is it allows people to believe that it's easy. And for many years, Dave has talked about this growth mutual fund that makes 12% a year or something, When I did an expose on this one time on my show, I often found that he was using the 90s as his time reference. The 80s and 90s were a prolific period in the market, history of the market. But for example, the period from 2000 to 2010 was a lost decade for equity investors. Conversely, 2010 to 2014 was a good period. 2010 to 2024, but we don't know what 2025 will bring.
Generally, would you agree with this or disagree?
Do I generally agree? What age are you? What is your risk profile? What are you trying to accomplish? I think what he's saying is after you've paid off your debt, you have your emergency fund, save regularly into highly appreciating mutual funds that are higher risk, because then you'll get higher rewards. So you'll be rewarded over the long term longer. There's some truth to that, but it's just very vague in general.
All right, next one from Ramsey. Don't use credit cards.
I'm sure he uses credit cards.
I'm sure he
and he
does
probably
too.
goes to Aruba with the points.
I mean, these are just big, broad statements he uses that are good headline pieces, it feels like, but like the nuance is missing.
You know, I would have a lot more respect with Dave if he just says, because Josh Zielinski, the financial quarterback, said to do this, I'm going to do this. If he wants to be truly congruent with his belief system, he should only accept cash or wires from bank accounts or checks or maybe even debit cards. He should not take credit cards, but I'm sure he takes credit cards on his website.
So when should people use credit cards, in your opinion, and when shouldn't they?
I think people should use credit cards if they're going to pay them off on a regular basis and not carry a balance. Number one, if you do not have willpower, which some people don't, right? They have it. They burn a hole in their pocket, cut up the cards, go to the old school envelope method. The envelope method, I've seen people truly get out of debt. They really count their cash. So when should you use your credit cards? When you pay them off regularly. Also, when you want to go on a trip. I regularly go on vacations paid for by Visa, MasterCard, Discover, Amex. I use my points. So am I dumb? No, I think I'm smart. But I get it. I get the credit card companies are doing that because they know some hapless soul won't pay it off and they'll try to get the points. The thing you do have to watch, though, and where I have gone to avoiding credit card payments, is when companies are now charging like a 3% fee to use your credit card. I intentionally don't go to those businesses. I mean, they should just charge a fair amount that includes their processing fees if they want to do that. I don't like tacking on an extra fee because I didn't bring cash. It's not a good business practice. What kind of people would you say shouldn't use credit cards? People who have no willpower. People who burn a hole in their pocket. People who watch too much QVC. So you got to know thyself, like Socrates said to young Plato.
This next quote comes from Dave Ramsey. Rich people acquire assets. The poor and middle class acquire liabilities that they think are assets. What do you think about that?
It's like common sense. It's obvious, you know. Ooh, rich people acquire assets. The poor and middle class acquire liabilities that they think are assets. Here's the thing, Dave. Do you buy a boat? Do you have a house? Do you really need, a 20,000 square foot house on the top of a hill in Tennessee? No. So in some ways, the rich people acquire liabilities are just bigger liabilities. These things where people are like, the rich do this, the poor do this. It's like, I don't know if they're helpful.
What's the difference between assets and liabilities for a normal listener, not a rich person?
Assets would be your home, your stocks, your 401ks, your mutual funds. You're acquiring things that eventually will appreciate or throw off income. A liability is just a payment you make every month, like a car payment or a boat payment. An asset is a plus sign.
Use the snowball method to pay off debt, Dave Ramsey.
The debt snowball is when you pay off your credit cards and you pay the one with the lowest balance first to then gain a sense of pride and stick-to-itiveness. So it's not that you pay off the one with the highest interest first. You pay off the lowest balance first. Then you take that payment and you snowball to the next lowest payoff balance, then the next one, then the next one. And so like a snowball, you're packing the snow until it becomes a fat snowman.
And that's the best idea for people?
It's not a bad idea. I prefer the envelope method, and I actually would go after the highest interest credit cards.
Yeah.
But the idea, I don't disrespect what he's advocating because it gives you that sense of pride when you pay off one bill.
Mhm.
So I'm not against the debt snowball. I would just do it a different way.
What are some other ways you can pay off debt?
I like a method that I think I came up with called auto debt relief. This is how that works. Because a lot of these methods require willpower that people don't have, right? Because you're in debt. You're not good with money. What you do is you go to your HR rep. You stop immediately all 401k deposits. You divert all 401k deposits and 10 to 20% of your pay to a separate checking or savings account that is not connected to your regular checking account for your day-to-day bills. That account is going to build, and you use that account to pay down your debt. What are you doing? You're creating forced savings. In essence, you are snowballing what you can save. And then if you can do 30% of your pay, do it. But it's in an account that you don't regularly see or spend. And then when that account gets up to be $5,000, you pay off that $5,000 credit card from Lowe's or Home Depot. When it gets up to $10,000, you pay off that Discover card. When it gets to $20,000, you pay off that Amex. When it gets to $30,000, you pay off the car. You build that as a wealth debt repayment account. And it's easy. Like, you're not doing envelopes. So if you say, Josh, I'm living paycheck to paycheck. In my plan, you can live paycheck to paycheck too, but we're not seeing the first 10 or 20%. It's going out. You're not having it go into your bank account.
I like that. Don't support children or grandchildren financially. Dave Ramsey.
Don't support children or grandchildren financially. I mean, now just think about this. You ever watch Ramsey Network now? You always see his daughter.
Yep.
So is he supporting his daughter? You could say indirectly. So people don't help their kids. Now, if you're saying if it's a choice between you retiring and paying for your kids' college, I get that there would be priority to paying for your retirement before college, because the kid could always get college loan debt. That child might always even get debt forgiveness on that loan. I mean, here's the thing. Do I say to my kids, I'm not going to buy you that toy when we go to the boardwalk? Yeah. But what happens? My wife gives me a look. Here's the truth. A lot of these financial, what do they call them? Finance bros. They like to appear tough. There are times to teach kids financial lessons. And by all means, if you are living paycheck to paycheck, first prioritize credit, getting out of credit card debt, building an emergency fund, saving 10 to 15% your workplace retirement plan. But I think of my parents who died with not a lot of money to their name. And my mother was a very giving woman. It gave her a lot of joy. Sometimes that brings immense joy to give gifts to children and grandchildren. So I think there's a balance. There are clients that I've met with over the years who give too much to their kids and they need to be talked off of a ledge. And then there are other people who are too miserly with their kids and you can't take it with you. So I think these are what the finance bros do to appear tough, and they're not fooling anybody.
All right, last one. Dave Ramsey. Draw from retirement savings at a rate of 8%.
Dave Ramsey says to draw from retirement savings at a rate of 8%. That's the dumbest idea I've ever heard. There have been numerous studies from William Bengen's Trinity survey to Wade Pfau, which has put the safe withdrawal rate somewhere between 1.9% and 4%. So an 8% withdrawal rate is financial suicide.
So you agree with that lower percentage?
Not necessarily, but everyone has a different max safe withdrawal rate. For example, if you have an annuity and the annuity pays out 6 or 7%, well, your safe withdrawal rate could be 6 or 7 if that's what the annuity stipulates. So you could get that income higher, but the safe withdrawal rate is used to refer to a balanced portfolio. So let's say you have 60% stock, 40% bonds. in cash. That person, based on all of these studies, should generally take no more than 4 or max 5% if you want to remain in the market, live off the interest, and have some ability to keep pace with inflation. So I agree with it theoretically. Now, I think the 4% rule is dumb from his perspective of it's very limiting, but an 8% withdrawal rate is sort of like financially irresponsible. So you have the irresponsible Dave 8% rate. You have the miserly 1.9 to 4% rate. Then you have something in between, which is what we advocate, which is optimizing one's retirement assets to have the most enjoyable, best after-tax spendable income you can have using different strategies in a smart way.
All right. So just to cap it off, talking about false idols in finance, if people are going on TikTok, listening to podcasts, reading books, how should people know who to trust?
You don't want to trust somebody just because they're on TikTok or they have a podcast, although please listen and share our podcast with everybody you know. But how do you know? Well, number one, is the person who is giving financial literacy a licensed fiduciary? Can you look them up on the SEC IARPD website? Because if you can't, they're generally not held to a higher standard of accountability. So number one, work with a fiduciary. Number two, you could check the broker you're working with at brokercheck.org. If you're dealing with a FINRA approved broker, you can check for credentials, awards. You could even do background checks on the individual through LexisNexis. So you can trust the people you're with. Some people say, well, get 3 references. Well, here's the truth. Is somebody ever going to give you a bad reference? I always thought, we had people who sometimes came to us with a list of like, what you should ask a financial advisor from, blah, 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 guy on the radio. And one of them was like, can you name 3 people you've worked with who are happy with your services? To me, that's like a question that will only get a good answer. Like nobody's going to say, hey, I had a bad experience with this person. The better question is to say, well, what type of people do you work well with? What type of people do you not work well with? To the advisor. But that's the quality of the advice. We're talking here about the trust on TikTok. A lot of these people are not licensed because the truth is often stranger than fiction. And the truth is often more complicated than the simple answers we seek to solve on our own. What is the legal definition of financial advice? We were very clear in the financial quarterback to say we're not giving financial advice. But how do you know you're getting advice? Number one, is that person a fiduciary? Number two, are they signing a contract with you? Like where you're giving them a fee in exchange for advice? If that's not happening, they don't really have any accountability to you. So they could have you do just whatever the heck they want you to do. These people don't know you. They don't know your personal situation. The moral of this story is, again, do not worship anyone just because they are a financial idol or a financial guru. Now, I have one dear listener friend who does call me her financial guru. And I know what she means, and I really take it seriously. I want even that person who calls me her guru to be financially educated, not idyllically idolizing someone so that nothing they say is ever wrong.